I actually struggled a fair bit with what I wanted to say this evening. It seemed nearly impossible in just a few minutes to be able to convey all that Peter has done, all that he has meant to the program and to children's health over the last 20-some-odd years. I thought maybe I could stand here and just go over after milestone, accolade after accolade, but I thought, might be a little boring. I'll let Steve do that. So what I tried to do instead was get across in the few minutes I have about what the true essence of why Peter's being honored for this champion award. So while I continued to think about what to say, which may or may not have been over something else that Peter's very fond of, beer, just to get in the mood, it occurred to me that Peter's contributions and accomplishments kind of follow the evolution of the training that we do for Catch. And I know a lot of you in the audience know some of the history of Catch, and you're going, yeah, duh, right, Joey, he's been there every step of the way. But what I mean is how Catch training started and how it's evolved is kind of similar to Peter's efforts and his work in this whole process. Think about it. After the main trial back in the mid-90s and up into the early 2000s, before Senate Bill 19 was mandated, which Peter had a very instrumental hand in, we used to train on Catch component by component. That is, if a school wanted to implement Catch, it was typically just one component. Most often, it was the Catch PE component. That was kind of our foot in the door of schools to talk about health and wellness and to talk about coordinated school health. That was kind of our gateway component, the easiest sell, if you will. Through the training of Catch PE, we would obviously mention the other components of the program and try to set those PE teachers up as champions to advocate for the other components of the program and other trainings to happen. Through this approach, we were able to get tons of Catch PE trainings, but only a smattering of the other component trainings, like Eat Smart or the classroom component. Well, right before and around the time of Senate Bill 19, which Catch started really promoting adopting the whole program, and we changed our training to reflect that. Starting in mid-2001, we went through and did a more coordinated model of training involving not just PE teachers, but others in the school, from child nutrition staff, classroom teachers, administrators, nurses. We basically said the more the merrier. The more folks that actually hear the message and get the information, the more likely they are to go back and actually do something. So this is all a long-winded way of saying, yes, Peter's been there every step of the way, advocating for children's health, promoting coordinated school health in the Catch program. But just like in the early days of training on Catch, Peter kind of started out at that one component approach I mentioned, where he was the one guy on the front lines just working to get in and talk to anybody who will listen, and a lot of folks that wouldn't. And I need to digress here just a little bit. When I say we in this training approach in the Catch team, it really is more accurate to say he, meaning Peter. Now, Peter will be the first one to try to defer credit to the team and deflect the credit away from himself, but it really is true that he was the one doing the lion's share of the work. It was him talking to and teaching anyone he could about Catch. Although Catch is a team effort and many folks have been involved in the process along the way, it's been Peter who has been the constant. It was Peter who was the one talking to anyone and anyone who would listen, presenting at conferences, manning booths at conventions, and so forth. So just like in the early days of Catch, one component at a time, it was Peter who was that one crucial component, that gateway component of getting Catch where it is today. He was the catalyst, the true champion of the program. And now, with Catch still growing strong, 30 years later, it's just like our training. It's become more of a coordinated effort. It involves lots more people in the process. We've got more folks than ever working to grow the program and help people create healthy environments for kids at school, at home, and in their communities. But even with all the folks across Texas and beyond working on all things Catch, there is still that constant, that critical component, Peter. Peter is still a central figure in Catch. He's the one who takes the time to talk to others about Catch ad nauseum sometimes. Actually, in the past couple of weeks, I reached out to folks and informed them about Peter's award, and the thing that kept bubbling up to the surface was time. Peter was the one who always took the time to talk to folks about catch, about the process, about how it could be done, how to get funding, you name it, Peter would take the time to help them. He has spent countless hours simply talking to and guiding people in the process of creating and supporting healthy environments for kids. To me, that is one of the true marks of a champion, not just advocating for a program, but also investing hours upon hours of your own time and effort to further that cause. And think about it, time is a precious commodity. All too often in our lives today, we race around not having enough time, doing or thinking about 20 different things at once. Well, to truly have an impact, I think one of those important factors is actually showing up and investing the time in what you believe in. And Peter is a perfect example of having done just that. Didn't matter if it was large scale or small scale, Peter took the time. When it comes to children's health, when it comes to catch, Peter is there, and Peter's been there every step of the way. That is a primary reason catch is where it is today and is able to positively impact kids all over Texas and beyond. During our trainings now, we ask everyone there to identify a catch champion, a chairperson to lead that effort once they get back to their campus. And a lot of times, no one really steps up. There's a lot of hesitancy, some finger pointing, you do it, no, you do it. Well, Catch never had to figure out who was going to be our champion. Peter just stepped up, he took the mantle, and he ran with it. He is our catch champion. But more than that, he is a champion for but more than a champion for just the program, he's a true champion for children's health. It is my pleasure to be here with you today to honor you with this award, Peter.
What she said. So it's a fine day to recognize health champions. We've got one more with Peter. I just thought I'd start by saying, if you would please raise your hand if you work at a school or you've been at one of Peter's trainings. You've worked with Peter, raise your hand. A lot of people. If you've heard of Catch, keep your hand raised up. If you like children. If you were once a child yourself, raise your hand. Peter, look at all these people out here. And we all owe you a debt of gratitude for helping us, ourselves and our children, become healthier. There's very few people I think is more deserving this award than Peter. You know, he is Mr. Catch. He is all the things that Joey said. So let me just, say a few brief words. What is Catch? If you don't know what Catch is, it's a program that's designed to coordinate various elements of the school. We work with school food service, we work with PE departments, we work with classroom curriculum teachers, and we work with parents, we work with community members. We try our best to get a framework put in place to give all the tools that people within a school or community might need to raise the health of children, particularly in diet and physical activity. We started doing this, a group of us, including Peter, in the late 80s. So we've been at this for quite some time. There's been 3 different NIH grants which have been funded to prove the efficacy of Catch. There's been a number of other grants from the CDC to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to the Michael and Susan Dell Family Foundation, all of whom we owe a debt of gratitude for their financial support. But in each step of the way, Peter's been there in helping us achieve our goals and making sure, as Joey alluded to, Peter's been the conscience of Catch. As many times I've tried to, occasionally I hold the financial purse strings to spend less money. Peter forces me to spend more. And he keeps us all honest in many ways about trying to make sure we can do our very best and not cut corners and to do the right thing. Since Catch was originally created, it was made for grades 3, 4, and 5. We quickly expanded it to kindergarten through 2nd grade because Peter met a pediatrician, I believe, here in Austin. And we decided, well, yes, of course, we need something bigger and better. So then we expanded Catch to kindergarten through 5th grade. Then a local foundation, a Paso del Norte Health Foundation, with a group out of Atlanta, the International Life Sciences Institute, said, well, we need to do something about after school because lots of kids are going to after school and they're serving food. So what's going on between 3 and 6? So Peter rolled up his sleeves and we had a conference here in Austin and we found the best people, built a new curriculum, delivered it, evaluated it, and it worked, and now it's all over the place. We heard from groups that said we want to do something with preschool. Obesity starts younger than kindergarten. What's going on with the kids that are 2, 3, and 4, 5? How are we going to help them? So Peter led the charge, found a group of pediatricians and nutritionists and PE people for specialists with little tiny kids on how you do work with them, and organized a team, and we built the Catch early childhood curriculum, which is now doing quite well. In the midst of all this, there's a group called the Oasis. Oasis Foundation? No, Oasis, yes. And they're a group of retirees that want to do something to contribute to schools. So Peter initiated them in Catch, taught them, helped write the program, and now we've got groups all over the country working on Catch, connecting retired individuals to schools and delivering the Catch program and materials. It's been amazing progress. But as Joey said, the centerpiece of all this has been Peter. Peter's the first one that picks up the phone, the first one to talk to a superintendent or a school district or YMCA or a Head Start or anything like that, and helps them sit down and say, well, what do you need? And let's figure out if we have the tools to help you. And if we don't have the tools, Peter's the liaison to go back to the university and say, well, let's make something new. Let's make sure it works first, but let's do it and let's make it new. So Peter's been all over the state. He's been down to Brownsville many, many times. He's been up in the Panhandle. He's been out to East Texas. He's been out to El Paso. He's been to Amarillo. I think they've stopped many times at that place and tried to eat that 72-ounce steak out in Amarillo. If you know about that, it's not easy to do. I only know one person that did. He's been up to Montana. He's been to Japan. He's been to Germany. Our YMCA-oriented program, they've trained every single YMCA. There's 450 of them in the state of New Jersey. Peter's been there leading the charge with that project, making sure they do it right. We recently got funding from the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation to train all the YMCAs here in Texas, so we're building that project. We're getting it going. And it was Peter's initiative which helped establish and inaugurate the Catch Global Foundation, whose mission now is to take the work that Peter and others, but who Peter in his stick-to-itiveness and his, well, I don't know what to call it, tenacity, I guess, the Australian tenacity came to play to make sure that all of us did the jobs that we were supposed to do. So the foundation recognizes that and has helped fund us in a number of ways. Anyway, I'm just going to stop there because there's too many accolades that the Catch program has received, and it's all because, I think, because of Peter as the glue holding us all together. So if you'd all please, Peter, please come up here. Peter getting a Longhorn?
Well, I've been busy. Yeah, this is a privilege. Thank you all very, very much. I'd like to begin by obviously thanking the Michael and Susan Dell Center for Healthy Living for this award, and also thank the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation for their continued support of the research of the Catch program over many, many years now. I appreciate that very much indeed. I will just put my specs on for a minute, getting a little bit old, because I was going to just do this, as you said, without a script, but I don't really want to forget anything I've written down here, and like Joey, I might get a little bit emotional, but I'll try not to. But yeah, no, I'd also actually like to start, before the music drums us out of here, thank my wife, who found me wandering aimlessly on a beach in Tahiti. I never really thought that I'd be able to top the job I had in Australia, but this doesn't come anywhere close to what I've experienced over the last 23 years. But she brought me to Texas, and because otherwise probably there's no way I'd ever end up in Texas anywhere else. But as soon as I got here, felt right at home. Lots of sunshine, very friendly, smiling people, although they sounded a bit funny at the beginning. I can say y'all now quite well. And they also had very large cold cans of Foster's, which is very important too. Anyway, in the spring of '92, I actually answered an ad in the newspaper for a physical education position with this project called Catch. It was a good thing it wasn't on the internet because I would never have found it. Those of you who know my skills technologically, and without Joey, I mean, we started with overhead transparencies. That's where all this began, and slides. I remember my first office was so small, and I'm sure Dr. Helsher remembers this, that we had to move our chairs to open and shut the door. The research continued continued, and in 1997, the dissemination of the main trial of Catch began when a gentleman from the Texas Department of Health then, Pete Hoffman in the diabetes program, had read the JAMA article about the Catch intervention and called the office. And I was fortunate enough to be able to actually talk to the first person about Catch who was interested in doing something outside of our research project. 4 years later, I was very proud to be part of a coalition of just outstanding educators and public health folks and so on in the state of Texas to pass through legislation Senate Bill 19. And for those of you who don't know, that was really all about coordinated school health and bringing that message to K through 5, and later that was expanded to the middle schools. There's two people I'd like to just remember at this time who were part of that group. One was Dr. Tommy Fleming, who was the director of Health and PE at the Texas Education Agency, a huge advocate for children's health and developmental assets. And also Dr. Stephen Barnett, who recently passed, was just, again, 40 years advocacy for children's health and particularly mental health. I certainly would not be here without the support of Dr. Steve Kelder, Dr. Deanna Helsher, and Dr. Andrew Springer. I think I saw her up the back up there. Your grant writing skills have allowed me to work for the last 22 years. Although I was released once.
Nice way to say it.
And it's a good thing I couldn't play golf very well, but so I'm glad we got another grant. Andrew, thank you for making sure everybody knows what they are doing and what needs to get done. I had a wonderful week with Andrew in Ecuador last week because we were working with some schools down there, so muchas gracias. See, that's it. I've only got 3 words. All right. Deanna, thank you for keeping the balance. We always had this between nutrition and physical activity. Obviously, you knew where I was, so keeping the balance and always making sure we dotted the I's and crossed the T's. And Steve, for calming me down on occasions and for really allowing me to do what I do. And I'll never forget the 5-pound lobster we shared in Boston. I'm not sure who paid for that. But anyway.
I'm sure I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're probably right. Yeah. And I certainly wouldn't be here without a very incredibly talented and passionate Catch team. And I won't ask you to stand, but I would like to just recognise the core UT Catch Global Foundation team, and of course led by Joey Walker, 16 years with Catch. And I know some of these folks might not be here, but I still want to recognise them anyway. Casey Hansen, Megan Graylis, Pam Greer, Edgar, Lindsay, Katie Stone, Meredith Kraft, Brooks Ballard. We've done some amazing webinars, even during bomb scares. Pretty amazing. And Carolyn Smith and Tiffany Menendez. I would also not be here because my salary would have expired about a year ago, if not for the Catch Global Foundation. And really for me, that is a dream come true. Duncan Van Dusen, if you're out there, thank you, Sarah, and Steve Kelder for doing all the things that are necessary to create a 501c charity. It's very special and lots of good things coming up. I certainly wouldn't be here without of the coordinated school health and catch champions in the state of Texas. I look around, I can see you all out there, and I won't even attempt to call out your names, but you know who you are. But I would ask everybody now who, and I'm going to just steal a little bit of Joey's here because you're probably getting a numb bum and it's almost time to go home. So if you are doing something in your school or your community or at home that supports a healthy environment, would you please stand up? So at home, at school, in your community. Now, it's very important in physical education that you say this. When I say go, very important, I'd like to turn to the person next to you and give them a high five or a fist, because I know public health, high fist, and tell them they're doing a good job. All right. All right. And as you can remain standing if you wish. And I saw this, Andrew had this. We were down in Ecuador last week, as I just mentioned, and this is the last few words he had on his slide, and these are the words of Helen Keller. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. Thank you so much.